There's a bomb in your car, sir. The voice was small but sharp enough to cut through the noise of the courthouse steps. Reporters had been shouting questions. A photographer somewhere was still calling his name. The driver of the black town car had already opened the rear door and was waiting with the patient stillness of a man who had done this 1,000 times. Michael Hartwell heard none of it once the boy spoke. He stopped on the third step from the bottom. His leather briefcase hung in his right hand. His left was halfway to adjusting his cufflink. He had been one quick stride from a private car, a private driver, and a private celebration of the largest legal victory of his life. And now a child was standing in front of him with both palms raised, blocking his path. "Sir, please. Don't get in that car." He could not have been older than 5. His skin was a deep warm brown, and his hair was cut close on the sides with a small twist of curls on top. He wore a faded yellow t-shirt under a gray cardigan that was at least 3 sizes too big for him. The cuffs swallowed his hands almost to the fingertips. There was a smudge of dirt on his left cheek. His shoes were canvas, scuffed, and laced wrong. But his eyes were steady, and they were locked on Michael's with an intensity that did not match his size at all. A security officer began moving toward him from the side. The driver, Lucas, took half a step forward, already glancing at Michael for the signal to clear him away. Michael raised one finger, and everyone paused. "Son," Michael said carefully, "you need to step back. The street isn't safe for you." "The street isn't safe for you," the boy said. A small ripple of laughter came from a knot of reporters who had drifted closer, sensing a moment. Someone raised a camera. Michael felt the prickle of attention shifting from his courtroom victory to the unscripted scene unfolding on the steps. He did not like it. He did not like cameras on anything he had not arranged. "Buddy," he said, his voice losing some of its softness, "where are your parents?" "I don't have parents." "Where is your grandmother, then?" "Where is whoever takes care of you?" "At the shelter on Fremont." "She's sick. She couldn't come with me." The boy took a small breath, then said, more firmly, "I came because I saw the man. He put something under your car. The black one with the M on the back. 2 nights ago. I saw him." Michael followed his gaze without thinking. His town car had a discreet silver M near the rear trunk, the personal monogram he had stopped paying attention to years ago. The car idling at the curb was, in fact, the black one with the M on the back. His stomach did something strange. He did not name it yet. "Mr. Hartwell, sir, do you need security?" Lucas had moved closer, his voice low. "He probably wants money. There's a whole crew of them that work the courthouse on big trial days." "I can, Lucas," Michael said quietly, "give me a moment." He crouched. His knee hit the cold stone of the step and he did not care that it would mark the navy wool of his suit. He set the briefcase down beside him. He brought himself to eye level with the boy. "What's your name?" "Avery." "Avery. Look at me. I want you to tell me again. Slow. What did you see?" He did not blink. "A man in those clothes. Like a fixer. Coveralls. Gray ones with a patch on the side. He was talking on his phone. He said Tuesday at 3. And then he laid down under your car and he slid something silver up under the bottom. He didn't see me because I was behind the dumpster by the parking place. I sleep there sometimes when the shelter is full." "Tuesday at 3, Michael repeated. Today was Tuesday. He had walked out of the courtroom at 2:41. His watch now read 2:58. A reporter who had been listening leaned slightly forward, scenting something. Lucas's professional smile had begun to thin. The driver's hand, Michael noticed without quite knowing why, had drifted to the door of the car. Resting on the frame. Holding it open. Waiting. "Avery," Michael said softly, "stay right where you are. Do not move. Do you understand me?" He nodded once. Michael stood up. His knees ached. His heart was doing something he had not felt since law school, since the first time he had walked into a courtroom and known, really known, that he could lose. He looked at Lucas. He looked at the open car door. He looked at the courthouse columns rising behind him, gray against a flat overcast sky. Then he reached for his phone. Michael pulled his phone from his inside pocket without taking his eyes off the car. His thumb moved on instinct. He did not call his attorney. He did not call his assistant. He did not call the man who, an hour earlier, he would have called first about anything that touched his personal safety. He called the police. "This is Michael Hartwell. I'm on the front steps of the Sutherland County Courthouse. I have credible information that there is an explosive device attached to the underside of my vehicle. A black sedan. License plate Mike Hotel 417. Yes. Yes, I'm serious. The driver is standing next to it. There are civilians on the steps and reporters about 10 feet from the vehicle. I need bomb disposal and I need this street cleared. Now." He hung up before the dispatcher finished her sentence. Lucas had gone still. His hand was no longer resting on the car door. It had dropped to his side in a careful, neutral way a hand drops when a man is trying very hard not to make a sudden movement. "Mr. Hartwell," Lucas said, "Sir, I think there's been a..." "Step away from the car, Lucas. Sir, step away from the car. Walk up the steps. Stand against the wall by the columns. Do it now." Lucas opened his mouth, closed it, and walked. He walked the way a man walks when he is not sure whether he is being suspected or saved, and he is not sure which would be worse. He passed within an arm's length of Avery on his way up. The boy did not move. He did not look at him. His eyes stayed on Michael. Michael turned to the cluster of reporters. There were maybe 6 of them, plus 2 photographers and a young woman with a microphone he vaguely recognized from the local affiliate. They had been close enough to hear pieces. They were already piecing the rest together. Everyone. Off the steps. Off the steps now. Cross the street. Get behind the line of cars on the far side. There is a possible device under my vehicle. I am not joking. Move. For 1 second, nobody moved. Then the young reporter with the microphone said, very loudly, "He's serious, go, go, go," and the spell broke. Cameras came down. People started running, which is not what Michael had told them to do, but he was not going to correct anyone. A bailiff who had been standing inside the courthouse glass doors saw the movement and opened them. He shouted something Michael did not catch and started waving the crowd of remaining onlookers back inside. Michael looked down at Avery. He was still standing exactly where he had been when he first put up his palms. "Avery. Son. I need you to come with me. Up the steps. Away from the car. Okay. Okay." He held out his hand. Avery looked at it for a second, the way a child does when he is not sure if the hand belongs to the kind of grown-up who keeps a hand out or the kind who pulls it back. Then he put his small fingers in Michael's. His hand was cold. The cuff of the gray cardigan came down over Michael's thumb. They walked up the steps together. Michael did not run. He was aware, with the clarity that sometimes arrives in the middle of bad situations, that running would frighten the boy, and that he had already been frightened enough for one lifetime. So he walked. Steady. Like they were going to a school recital. Like the world was not maybe about to come apart 15 feet behind them. At the top of the steps, by the 3rd column, he stopped and turned Avery gently so his back was to the stone. He crouched again. "You did the right thing," he said. "Whatever happens next, whatever anyone says, you did the right thing. Do you understand me?" Avery nodded. His eyes were wet now, finally. The conviction that had carried him through the crowd was beginning to drain, the way it does in children when the adult finally takes over and they are allowed to be scared. "I was afraid you wouldn't listen," he whispered. "Grown-ups don't always listen." "I know," Michael said. "I know they don't." The first sirens came up the avenue at 3:04. The bomb squad arrived in a heavy black truck that took the corner too fast and stopped at an angle in the middle of the street. 2 officers in dark blue tactical gear were out before the wheels stopped moving. A third followed, carrying a long pole with what looked like a small mirror at the end. They moved with an economy of motion that Michael, who had spent a decade watching expensive professionals do expensive things, recognized immediately as the real thing. A uniformed officer jogged up the steps to him. "Mr. Hartwell?" "Yes. Sir, we need everyone behind the courthouse. The building has a secured rear courtyard. Please come with me. Bring the child." Michael did not let go of Avery's hand. Section 3/10. The rear courtyard of the Sutherland County Courthouse was a square of cracked concrete bordered on 3 sides by stone walls and on the 4th by a chain-link gate that opened onto an alley. There was a single iron bench, a dying potted tree, and an ashtray that had not been emptied in months. In any other circumstance, Michael would not have noticed any of it. Today he noticed all of it, because the alternative was thinking about what was happening on the other side of the building. He sat down on the bench. He lifted Avery up beside him. The boy's feet did not reach the ground. His scuffed canvas shoes hung in the air at the level of Michael's shin. "Are you cold?" Michael asked. Avery shook his head, then nodded, then shrugged. Michael shrugged out of his suit jacket and draped it around the boy's shoulders. It engulfed him. The lapels reached past his knees. The collar came up to his ears. Avery clutched the front of it with both hands without being told to and pulled it close. A uniformed officer, a woman in her 30s with a name tag that read Reyes, stood about 10 feet away, giving them space but not too much. She had a notebook out. She had not opened it yet. "Mr. Hartwell," she said. "When you're ready." "Ask him," Michael said. He saw it. "Ask him." Officer Reyes crouched the way Michael had crouched, which Michael noticed and approved of. "Hi, sweetheart. My name's Officer Reyes. Is it okay if I ask you some questions?" "Yes, ma'am. You're very polite. My grandma teaches me. She sounds wonderful. What's your name, honey?" "Avery Coleman." "How old are you, Avery?" 5 3/4. She wrote it down. Her face did not change, but her pen paused for half a second on the word quarters, the way a person's hand pauses when they are trying not to feel something. "Avery, the man you saw under the car. Can you tell me what he looked like?" "Take your time." Avery thought. He held one cuff of the cardigan in his teeth for a second, then let it go. He was white. Not pink white. Tan white. He had a beard but not a long one. Like a coloring book beard. Brown. He had a hat. The kind with no top, just a circle around your head. A headband? Like that, yes. Black. And his coveralls were gray, and on the side, by the heart, he had a patch. It was red and white. It said something, but I can't read very many words yet. The first letter was AB and then there was an A and an R. Bar, Officer Reyes said quietly, to herself more than to him. Then to Avery, "That's very good. That's very specific. Was anyone with him?" "No, ma'am. He was on the phone. He was alone with the phone." "And what did he say on the phone?" "You told Mr. Hartwell he said Tuesday at 3. Anything else?" Avery's face did the small concentrated thing it did when he was reaching back for something. "He said the M car. He said that 2 times. He said Tuesday at 3 and the M car. And he said, he won't even feel it. He said that and then he laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. And then he said something about money. He said half now and half after. And then he said okay, and he put the phone in his pocket and he laid down under the car." Officer Reyes wrote without looking down at her notebook, the way good officers learn to do so the witness will not feel watched. "Avery, this is very important. The man on the other end of the phone. The one he was talking to. Did Mr. Mechanic say a name?" Avery thought again. He thought for a long time. Michael's pulse was doing something steady and wrong in his throat. He said, "Boss," Avery said. And then one time he said something that started with a J. Like Jim. Or James. I don't remember which one. But it started with a J. Michael's hand, resting on the bench beside Avery's leg, contracted slightly. He felt it before he understood it. His knuckles went pale. He looked down at his own hand as if it belonged to someone else. James. His chief of security. The man who chose his drivers. The man who scheduled his cars. The man who, that morning, had walked Michael to the courthouse door with one hand on his shoulder and said, "Big day, boss. Big day." The man who, on Sunday night, 2 days ago, would have known exactly where the M car was parked and exactly when nobody would be watching it. Officer Reyes had stopped writing. She was looking at Michael. Michael realized his face had done something. "Mr. Hartwell." "Keep going," Michael said. His voice came out rougher than he meant. "Ask him the rest." "I'm fine." He was not fine. But Avery was watching him too now, with that grave little expression, and Michael had told a 5-year-old 15 minutes ago that he had done the right thing. So Michael did the only thing he could think of. He smiled at the boy. It was not a big smile. But it was a real one. "You're doing great," he said. "Tell her everything you remember." Avery told her everything he remembered. He told her about the dumpster behind the parking garage on Wexler Street and how it leaned a little to the left because someone had hit it with a truck. He told her about the streetlight that flickered every 6 seconds, which he knew because he had counted. He told her that his grandmother had told him never to come out from behind the dumpster when men were in the alley at night, and that he had not come out, he had only watched, and that was different. He told her that the mechanic had a small tattoo on the back of his right hand. Avery did not know what the tattoo was a picture of, but he could draw the shape of it if someone gave him a pencil. Officer Reyes gave him her pen in the back of an evidence form, and Avery, with the tip of his tongue pressed against his upper lip, drew a careful shape. It was a 5-pointed star with a smaller circle inside it. Officer Reyes looked at the drawing for a long second. Then she looked at Michael. "Excuse me one moment," she said. She stood and walked across the courtyard to a man in a dark suit who had appeared at the gate without anyone announcing him. They spoke in low voices. The man in the suit looked at Michael, then at Avery, then back at his phone. He nodded once and stepped back out through the gate. Officer Reyes returned. She did not sit down this time. "Mr. Hartwell," she said quietly, "the device is real. They confirmed it about 3 minutes ago. It's a magnetic charge attached to the chassis above the rear driver's side wheel. It's wired to a remote detonator. The squad is going to neutralize it on site. The car is a total loss, but the device will be preserved as evidence." Michael said nothing. "The remote detonator," she continued, "tells us a few things. The first is that this wasn't meant to go off when the car started. It was meant to go off when someone with a finger on a button decided. Which means somebody was watching. Which means somebody is probably still watching. Not from the steps, we cleared those. From further. We have officers sweeping the rooftops and the parking structures in a 4-block radius right now. I'm telling you this because I need you to make a decision." "What decision?" "Your security detail. Who handles it? Where are they?" Michael felt the question land. He felt it land the way a punch lands when you have already braced for it, but bracing does not actually help. "James Whitlock," he said. "Chief of Security. He's at my office. He was supposed to meet me at the rear entrance of the building after I left the courthouse. He'll be wondering why I haven't called him." "Has he called you?" Michael looked at his phone. He had not looked at it since he had hung up on the dispatcher. The screen was lit. There were 11 missed calls. 9 of them were from James. "Yes," Michael said. Officer Reyes nodded slowly, the way a person nods when something they suspected has been confirmed but they take no pleasure in it. "Mr. Hartwell. I'm not going to tell you who to suspect. That's not my job. But I'm going to ask you to not return any of those calls until we have someone with you. Not your security. Not your driver. Not anyone who reports to your chief of security. Are we clear?" "Yes." Is there anyone you trust who is not in his chain of command? Family. Old friend. Personal attorney. Someone who has nothing to do with the company. Michael thought. He thought about his ex-wife, who had remarried and moved to Oregon and would not pick up. He thought about his brother, who had not spoken to him in 4 years over a will neither of them had fully understood. He thought about his college roommate, who was a cardiologist in Boston and would catch the next flight if Michael asked, but who would not get here in time to matter today. My personal attorney, he said. Margaret Chen. She does my estate work. She has no connection to the company at all. She doesn't even like the company. Call her. From my phone, not yours. We're going to assume your phone may have been compromised until we know otherwise. Michael took the officer's phone. He called Margaret Chen. She answered on the second ring, the way she always did, and when he said the words, "bomb under my car," she did not gasp and she did not interrupt. She said, "Tell me where you are. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't talk to anyone from the firm. Don't talk to James. Don't talk to anyone." And she hung up. Michael handed the phone back. His hand was steady. He was surprised by that. Avery had been listening. He had not pretended not to. Children that age don't always know yet that adults appreciate the pretense. He was looking up at Michael with his eyebrows pulled together. Is the man with the J going to be mad at you? He asked. Probably, Michael said. Is he going to try again? Michael looked at this small boy in his too large jacket, with dirt still on his cheek and a pink scrunchied side puff that the wind was lifting gently, and he felt something he had not felt in a very long time, which was the impulse to make a promise he could keep. Not while I have anything to say about it, he said. And not while anyone in this courtyard has anything to say about it either. Officer Reyes did not look up from her notebook. But the corner of her mouth moved. That's right, she said quietly. Not while we have anything to say about it. Margaret Chen arrived in 18 minutes. She came through the chain-link gate at the back of the courtyard wearing a cream blouse and the same black trousers she always wore, carrying a leather folio under one arm and looking, as she always did, like a woman who had decided a long time ago not to be surprised by anything. She took in the scene in 3 seconds. Michael on the bench. Avery beside him in a suit jacket that came down to his knees. Officer Reyes standing a respectful distance away. The faint sound of a controlled detonation that had happened, in fact, 12 minutes earlier from the far side of the building, a sound Michael had felt more than heard, a small contained thump that had rattled the courtyard's iron bench and made Avery flinch and reach for Michael's sleeve without thinking. Margaret walked to the bench. She looked at Avery first, not Michael. Hello, she said. I'm Margaret. I'm Mr. Hartwell's lawyer. What's your name? Avery Coleman. Avery, that's a very good name. Is it okay if I sit down on your other side? Yes, ma'am. She sat. She set the folio on her lap. She did not open it. She turned her head slightly toward Michael. Tell me, she said. Michael told her. He told her in the short clean sentences she had taught him to use over 15 years of being his attorney, because Margaret had no patience for narrative when facts were required. He told her about the boy on the steps. The phone call he had made. Lucas the driver, who was still being held somewhere inside the courthouse for questioning. The mechanic. The patch on the coveralls. The tattoo. The voice on the phone that had said, boss, and once said something starting with J. The 11 missed calls from James Whitlock that were still glowing on his phone. When he finished, Margaret was quiet for several seconds. Then she said, How long has James been your chief of security? 9 years. And the post-trial audit you were going to run on internal operations. Who knew about it? Michael looked at her. James helped me schedule it, he said slowly. I told him last Friday. We were going to start it Wednesday. Wednesday, Margaret said. Which would be tomorrow. Yes. She nodded once. She did not say, I told you so, about James, although she had, in fact, told him so, 2 years earlier, in a conversation Michael had brushed off because the numbers had not yet asked any questions he could not answer. She did not say it. Margaret did not waste words on things that did not change outcomes. "Officer Reyes," she said, "is the federal field office involved yet?" "They've been notified. An agent's en route. Should be here within the hour." "Good. Mr. Hartwell will give a full statement to the federal agent and to your detectives. He will not give a statement to anyone from his own corporate security. He will not return to his office tonight. He will not return to his home tonight. We're going to need a secure location. I have one. I'll provide the address only to law enforcement." "That works for me," Officer Reyes said. Margaret turned to Avery then. Her face changed. It did not soften, exactly. Margaret Chen did not really soften. But it adjusted, the way a face adjusts when a person reminds themselves that they are speaking to a child and that this child has just spent an hour answering questions about a tattoo and a phone call and a man who wanted to kill someone. "Avery," she said. "Where is your grandmother right now?" "At the shelter on Fremont Avenue. In the women's section. She has the cot near the window. She likes the window because the light helps her see her book." "What's her name?" "Elizabeth Coleman." "Is she expecting you back?" "I told the lady at the front desk I was going to the library. She said I had to be back by 5. Margaret looked at her watch. It was 3:51. "She's sick," Avery added quietly, "but she didn't want me to know how sick. She thinks I don't know. But I know. She coughs at night and it sounds wet. The nurse who comes on Wednesdays said pneumonia. I heard her say it through the curtain." The courtyard was very quiet. Officer Reyes had stopped writing. Margaret did not look at Michael, which was how Michael knew she was managing her own face. Michael looked down at his own hands, which were resting on his knees, and he thought about the words pneumonia and shelter and cot near the window, and how he had spent the morning in a courtroom arguing about a number with 7 zeros that he did not, at this moment, remember the first digit of. "Avery," Margaret said, and now her voice did soften, just slightly, just enough, "we're going to make sure your grandmother is taken care of. Is that all right with you?" Avery looked at her. He looked at Michael. He looked at Officer Reyes. He was looking, Michael understood with a small painful clarity, for the catch. Children who sleep behind dumpsters learn early that adults who offer things usually want something back, and the something is usually larger than the offer. "What do I have to do?" Avery asked. "Nothing," Margaret said. "You already did it." He thought about that for a long moment. Then he nodded, slowly, and tucked his hands deeper into the sleeves of Michael's jacket. "Okay," he said. The federal agent who arrived at 4:23 was a woman in her late 40s named Special Agent Diane Holloway. She wore a charcoal blazer over a white shirt and had the kind of calm in her shoulders that came from doing a thing for a very long time and no longer being thrilled or upset by any version of it. She introduced herself to Michael, then to Margaret, then she crouched in front of Avery and introduced herself to him. "Hi, Avery. I'm Diane. I work for the federal government. That means I'm going to help the local officers figure out who did this, and we're going to find that mechanic, and we're going to find the person who paid him. Officer Reyes told me you've been a really excellent witness. I'm wondering if I could ask you a few more questions, and then I think we can let you go somewhere warm. Does that sound okay?" "Yes, ma'am." "You eaten today?" Avery hesitated. It was the kind of hesitation that answered the question. Agent Holloway did not react. She stood up, walked to the courtyard gate, said something to a uniformed officer, and came back. For minutes later, a paper bag was passed through the gate. Agent Holloway brought it to the bench and set it next to Avery. "Turkey sandwich, apple, chocolate milk," she said. "If you don't like turkey we can fix that. But eat the apple first or my partner will give me grief." Avery looked at the bag. He looked at Michael, the way a child looks when he is not sure if eating in front of strangers is allowed. Michael nodded. Avery opened the bag. He ate the apple first, very carefully, the way a person eats when he has learned to make food last. Agent Holloway took a slim notebook out of her blazer pocket. She did not open it. "Mr. Hartwell," she said quietly, "I'd like a minute with you." Out of earshot. "Counselor, you're welcome to join." They walked to the far corner of the courtyard. Margaret came with them. Officer Reyes stayed near the bench, close enough to keep an eye on Avery, far enough to give him space with his apple. "Here's where we are," Agent Holloway said. "The device on your car is consistent with 3 other incidents we've been tracking on the eastern seaboard over the last 14 months. Same magnetic configuration. Same triggering mechanism. Same supplier, almost certainly. The mechanic the boy described matches a face we've had on a watch list for 8 months. We didn't have a name. We do now, or we will within the hour, because the boy's description of the patch on the coveralls just narrowed it to one of 3 subcontracting outfits that work the parking garages in your district." "That fast?" Michael said. "The boy is a remarkably good witness. I don't say that lightly. Most adults can't do what he just did in there. He gave us a tattoo design, a beard shape, a phrase, and a timeline. That's a closed loop." She paused. "The other piece I want to discuss with you. We've been investigating internal financial irregularities at Hartwell Holdings for approximately 7 months. We have not approached you yet because, frankly, we weren't sure yet which side of it you were on." Michael's mouth opened slightly. "You thought I was embezzling from my own company?" "I thought somebody at the executive level was. We had 3 names on a list. Yours was one of them. Your CFO was another. Your chief of security was the third. Tonight, you took yourself off that list by calling 911 instead of getting in the car. Frankly, you took yourself off about an hour ago." Margaret said, very quietly, "Diane, you might have shared that with me at some point." "I'm sharing it now, counselor." Michael leaned his shoulder against the stone wall of the courtyard because he was not sure his legs were participating fully. 9 years. James had been at his side for 9 years. Had been the man who flew with him. Had been the man who screened his dinner reservations. Had been the man who, 2 Christmases ago, had stood in Michael's kitchen at midnight drinking scotch and saying he did not know what he would do without this job, this life, this family of one. "How much?" Michael asked. "We've traced approximately $14 million across 32 months. It's not all him. He had help. We think the help is the CFO, but the CFO is going to be very surprised tomorrow morning. What changed for James in the last week is that you ordered the audit. The audit would have found it in 6 weeks. He didn't have 6 weeks. So he tried to buy himself a different ending. By killing me. By killing you. And then, presumably, stepping into the very orderly machinery of crisis management he himself runs, in which he is the most trusted voice in the building, and conducting whatever investigation he chose to conduct, with whatever findings he chose to find." Michael looked across the courtyard at Avery, who was now drinking the chocolate milk with both hands wrapped around the carton. "How long until he knows I'm alive?" "He already knows. Local affiliate ran a clip about 20 minutes ago. Bomb squad activity at the courthouse. Your name's on it. We're moving on him in roughly 40 minutes. There's a team staged. He will not be at his desk by 5:30. "Good," Michael said. The word came out clean and cold. He was surprised by it. Agent Holloway looked at him for a beat. "Mr. Hartwell. One more thing." "Yes." "The boy. The grandmother. The shelter." "Yes. I don't normally weigh in on this part. But that child was the only thing standing between you and a state funeral. Whatever you do for him, do it correctly. Not splashy. Not press. Correctly." "I know," Michael said. "I know." The shelter on Fremont Avenue was a converted 3-story building that had once been a school, and the bones of the school were still visible in everything about it. The wide hallway that had been a corridor between classrooms. The drinking fountain still mounted at child height. The chalkboard outline on a wall where someone had painted over but not quite covered the rectangle. It was 5:14 in the afternoon when Margaret's car pulled up to the curb across the street. Michael had changed out of the navy suit. He was now wearing a plain charcoal sweater and gray slacks that Margaret had picked up from a department store on the way. The suit was being held as evidence, along with everything else that had been on or near him that day. He felt, in the borrowed sweater, like a man who had borrowed his own life back temporarily and was not yet sure of the terms. Avery sat in the back seat beside him, still in the gray cardigan. The dirt smudge on his left cheek was now gone, because a nurse at the courthouse infirmary had cleaned it with a warm cloth while Avery sat very still and pretended he did not enjoy the warm cloth. He had also been weighed, which had made Officer Reyes turn her face toward a wall for a moment, and given a small juice box. "That's the shelter?" Michael asked. "Yes," Avery said. "The window with the curtain that has the flowers. That's where Grandma sleeps." Michael looked at the window. The curtain had small yellow flowers on a faded white background. It had probably been donated. "Avery," Margaret said from the driver's seat, "we're going to go inside together. The director of the shelter is expecting us. We're not going to take your grandmother anywhere she doesn't want to go. We're going to ask her what she wants." "Okay. Okay." They got out. Margaret went first. Michael followed with one hand resting lightly on Avery's small shoulder, less to guide him than to keep himself oriented. A federal agent in plain clothes stayed with the car. Another walked a short distance behind them on the sidewalk. Agent Holloway had not asked permission for this. She had simply arranged it. The director of the shelter was a woman named Mrs. Patterson. She was black, perhaps 60, with reading glasses on a chain and a cardigan of her own, also gray, also too large. She met them in the front office. She looked at Avery first. "Avery, baby. Where have you been? It's past your check-in time. Your grandmother has been asking." "I had to talk to some people," Avery said. "About a man with a beard." Mrs. Patterson's eyebrows went up. She looked at Margaret. Margaret introduced herself, introduced Michael, and explained, in the short clean sentences she had taught Michael to use, what had happened that afternoon. Mrs. Patterson listened without interrupting. When Margaret finished, Mrs. Patterson took her reading glasses off and pinched the bridge of her nose. "Lord have mercy," she said softly. "This child." "Yes," Margaret said. "Mr. Hartwell," Mrs. Patterson said, "you are not the first wealthy man to walk into this building wanting to fix something. I want to be very plain with you before we go upstairs. Elizabeth Coleman is one of the proudest women I have ever met. She has been in this shelter for 6 weeks. She came to us with her grandson because her landlord raised the rent on a 2-bedroom apartment by $400 in February and she could not make the new number on a fixed income. She is 68 years old. She worked as a school nurse for 31 years. She raised this child from the day his mother died, which was when he was 2. She has lung trouble that became pneumonia about 10 days ago. She has been refusing the hospital because she is afraid that if she goes, the state will take Avery, because she is the only family he has and she is not, technically, a registered foster placement. Do you understand what I am telling you?" "Yes," Michael said. "Then before you go up there, I need you to understand that the offer you make her has to leave her with her dignity. If you arrive in that room like a man saving her, she will turn her face to the wall and she will die on principle. If you arrive in that room like a man who owes her something, she might listen." Michael was quiet for a moment. "I do owe her something," he said. "Yes, you do. Make sure she hears that." They climbed the stairs to the second floor. The women's section was a long room that had once been a classroom, with cots arranged in 2 neat rows along the walls and a curtained-off bathroom at the far end. Most of the cots were empty at this hour. One was occupied. The cot near the window with the yellow flowers. Elizabeth Coleman was sitting up against 2 thin pillows. She was a small woman, smaller than Michael had expected. Her hair was short, gray at the temples, dark on top, pulled back with a plain black band. She was wearing a flannel nightgown and a knitted shawl over her shoulders. There was a paperback book on the cot beside her, face down to hold her place. She was reading by the late gray light coming through the window. She saw Avery first. Her whole face changed. "Boy. Where have you been, Dot?" "Grandma," Avery said, and ran the last 6 feet, and put his face into her shoulder. She held him. She did not look up at Michael for a long moment. When she did, her eyes were sharp and clear and entirely unsurprised, the way the eyes of someone who has lived a long careful life can be unsurprised by almost anything. "You'd be the man my grandbaby saved," she said. "Yes, ma'am," Michael said. "Come sit down, then. We have things to talk about." There was no chair near the cot. Michael pulled over a small wooden stool that had been holding a stack of folded towels and set the towels on the floor and sat. The stool was low enough that he had to look up slightly to meet Elizabeth Coleman's eyes. He did not mind that. Margaret stayed near the doorway. Mrs. Patterson stayed with Margaret. Avery did not let go of his grandmother's hand. "My name is Michael Hartwell," Michael said. "I know who you are. I read the newspaper when somebody leaves one in the day room. You won that case this morning." "Yes, ma'am." "You're the man who buys companies that don't want to be bought." "Yes, ma'am." She looked at him over the rim of nothing, because she was not wearing glasses, but she had the look of a woman who had spent enough of her life giving children shots that she could look over the rim of nothing as well as anyone alive. "I don't have much patience left in my chest, Mr. Hartwell. They tell me I have pneumonia. I tell them I have a chest. I'm going to ask you a plain question. Did my grandson save your life today?" "Yes, ma'am." "He did. Tell me how." He told her. He told her the same short clean version he had told Margaret, with the parts a grandmother needed to hear. The boy on the steps. The palms raised. The phrase, "Tuesday at 3. The decision Michael had made to listen instead of brush him aside. The car. The device. The mechanic. The man named James. He left out the dollar amount of the embezzlement because that number was not relevant in this room. He left out his own pride about having won the trial that morning because that was not relevant either. He talked for about 4 minutes. Elizabeth Coleman did not interrupt him once. When he finished, she sat in silence for a long beat. Her thumb moved gently on the back of Avery's hand. "Avery," she said quietly. "Baby. Did you sleep behind that dumpster again?" "Only the one night, Grandma. When the shelter was full on Sunday and they had me on the floor." "You told me you were on the floor." "I was on the floor first. Then I went outside because the man next to the floor was coughing and I thought I would catch it and you said catching things is bad right now." Elizabeth closed her eyes. She did not cry. Michael got the strong sense that she had not allowed herself the luxury of crying in front of her grandson in a very long time, possibly years. "All right," she said, opening her eyes. "All right." She looked at Michael. "Mr. Hartwell. What is it you came here to say to me?" "I came to tell you that I owe you a debt I can't repay. And I came to ask if you'll let me try anyway." "Try how?" "You need a hospital. Tonight. Not tomorrow. There's a private medical suite at St. Anne's, on the 4th floor, that I have access to. It's quiet. It's clean. There's a window. There's a chair beside the bed big enough for Avery to sleep in, if he wants to. The doctor on call tonight is named Dr. Whitfield. He has been told nothing about you except that a patient with pneumonia will be arriving at 7, and that the family is to be left alone. There is no bill that will reach you. There is no bill at all. I want you to understand that I am not paying for your gratitude. I am paying a debt. There is a difference." She watched him as he spoke. Her face did not change. "Mr. Hartwell. I want you to understand something also. I have been a nurse for 31 years. I know what pneumonia looks like in a 68-year-old woman who has spent 6 weeks in a converted school. I know what the next 48 hours look like if I stay in this cot. I am not refusing the hospital because I do not understand what is happening to me. I am refusing the hospital because I have one job left in this world, and that job is sitting next to me holding my hand. I know, Michael said. Then you also know I cannot accept a hospital bed if it means Avery goes anywhere I cannot see him. He will be in the room with you. Every night. There is a cot for him there too. He will eat his meals there. If you want him to go to school during the day, we will arrange that. If you want him to stay with you during the day, that is also fine. Mrs. Patterson will continue as his legal contact person at the shelter for the moment, so that nothing changes about his official situation while you recover. My attorney, Margaret, will quietly file paperwork to make absolutely sure that no one, not the state, not anyone, can move him out of your custody while you are in that hospital. And when you come out of that hospital, you and Avery are not coming back to this shelter. There is a small house on the east side of the river that has been empty for 2 years because it belonged to my grandmother and I have not been able to bring myself to sell it. It is fully furnished. It has a yard. It has a school 3 blocks away. It will be yours. Not on loan. Yours. The paperwork will be in your name. That is the part one want you to think about overnight, not the hospital. The hospital is happening tonight. Elizabeth Coleman looked at him for a long time. Her hand, the one not holding Avery's, came up and rested flat against her own chest, the way a person's hand will when they are taking the measure of their own breathing. Mr. Hartwell, she said finally, I think you and I are going to have to talk again in the morning. Yes, ma'am. But tonight, she said, I will go to the hospital. The ambulance Margaret had arranged was not the kind with sirens. It was a private medical transport, white and quiet, and the 2 paramedics who came up the stairs of the shelter spoke to Elizabeth Coleman as Mrs. Coleman and asked her permission before they touched her. They folded her into a wheelchair with the same care a person uses folding a letter they intend to keep. Avery walked beside her down the hallway with his hand on the armrest. He did not let go in the elevator. He did not let go when they crossed the lobby. He did not let go when they reached the curb. Mrs. Patterson stood in the doorway of the shelter and watched them load Elizabeth into the back of the transport. Michael saw her dab once at the corner of her eye with the side of her thumb, the way a woman dabs when she does not want to be caught dabbing. Then she straightened, smoothed her gray cardigan, and walked back inside to do the rest of her evening, because shelters do not pause. At St. Anne's, the 4th-floor suite was exactly what Michael had described and slightly more. The room was warm. The bed was good. There was a recliner in the corner that, when reclined, became a small bed. There was a soft lamp instead of overhead fluorescence. There were 2 extra pillows and a folded quilt that did not look like hospital issue, because it was not. Dr. Whitfield was a quiet man in his 50s who introduced himself to Elizabeth, then to Avery, and asked Elizabeth, before he did anything else, whether she would like the nurse to be a man or a woman. Elizabeth said a woman, please. The nurse who came in 2 minutes later was a woman. Michael stood in the hallway outside the room with Margaret while the medical team did their work. He could see, through the partially open door, Avery climbing carefully into the recliner, finding it acceptable, and arranging the gray cardigan over himself like a blanket even though there was a real blanket on the recliner already. He's not going to take it off, Margaret said quietly. No, Michael said. He's not. A nurse came out of the room and gently closed the door behind her. She's stable. We're starting antibiotics. The chest X-ray is happening in about 10 minutes. Dr. Whitfield will speak to you when there's something to say. The boy is welcome to stay. I'll bring him some dinner around 8. Thank you. The nurse went back in. Michael leaned his shoulder against the wall of the hallway. The hallway smelled like hospitals smell, which is to say like nothing in particular, deliberately. He had not eaten since breakfast. He had not noticed until that moment. Margaret, he said. The audit on Wednesday. I want it moved to tomorrow morning. Every account. Every line. I want the auditors in the building at 7. Already arranged. I called from the car on the way over. James. In custody. They picked him up at 4:58, exiting the building through the underground garage with a packed bag. Federal agents had 2 cars on him from the moment Agent Holloway's team moved. He did not resist. He asked for his lawyer in the elevator. His lawyer was not yet aware that his client had been the target of a months-long federal investigation. And the mechanic? Identified within the hour. He is also in custody. He gave them James's name before they finished reading him his rights. He gave them other names too, which I assume are going to make tomorrow morning interesting for several people who do not yet know their morning is going to be interesting. Michael closed his eyes. Margaret. How did I not see this? You didn't see it because James didn't want you to. That's his entire job. To make you not see things. You hired him to handle the world around you so you didn't have to look at it directly, and he handled it. He just handled some of it for himself instead of for you. The fact that you didn't see it is not, strictly speaking, a failure of yours. It is, strictly speaking, the working as intended of an arrangement you made 9 years ago. That's a generous read. It's an accurate read. I do not give generous reads. You know that. He almost laughed. He did not quite get there. The boy, Michael said. When this is on the news tomorrow, his face is going to be on every screen in the city by noon. I do not want that. I want him to be able to walk into his new school 3 blocks from that house without anyone there knowing him as the kid who stopped a bombing. Already being managed. Agent Holloway agrees. His name is not in the official statement. He is referred to as a juvenile witness whose identity is being protected at the request of the family. Local affiliates have already been briefed. 2 reporters tried to make a fuss. They were reminded, quietly, that they were standing on the courthouse steps at 3 p.m. today and that their continued ability to do their jobs depends on not making this child a story. Margaret. You're terrifying. I'm thorough. Through the partly open door, Michael could see Elizabeth Coleman's hand, resting on top of the white blanket. Avery had reached across from the recliner and put his small hand on top of hers. They were both, Michael noticed, falling asleep. Elizabeth from medication and exhaustion. Avery from the simple fact that a 5-year-old who has saved a man's life that afternoon eventually runs out of fuel. Michael stood in the hallway and watched the 2 of them for a long time. He did not go in. He did not want to interrupt. He thought about the boy on the steps with both palms raised. He thought about the half-second in which he had almost waved his hand at his driver and gotten in the car. He thought about how close his life had come to ending on a piece of pavement he had walked over without looking at, in front of a building he had walked into 1,000 times. He thought about the fact that a child who lived behind a dumpster had remembered his face from a winter night when an old woman had been given a coat, and that this remembering, this one small act of human attention, was the only reason he was breathing. He stood in the hallway for a long time. Michael did not go home that night. The federal team had advised against it and Margaret had advised against it more firmly, and there was, in any case, nowhere he particularly wanted to be. He slept 4 hours on a couch in the small family lounge at the end of the 4th-floor hallway, with his shoes still on and his phone face down on the coffee table. He woke at 6. He walked back to the room. He opened the door an inch. Elizabeth Coleman was awake. She was sitting up against 3 pillows now instead of 2. There was color in her face that had not been there the night before. Avery was still asleep in the recliner, his cheek pressed against the armrest, the gray cardigan pulled up to his chin. A nurse had left a tray of breakfast on the side table. Elizabeth had eaten half a piece of toast and was working on the rest of it with the deliberate patience of a woman who has decided to live. She saw Michael in the doorway. She raised her eyebrows once. That was the invitation. He came in quietly and sat on the small stool that someone had thoughtfully placed beside the bed. He did not speak. She did not seem to want him to. After a minute she said, very softly so as not to wake the boy, the doctor came in at 5:30. He says I am responding to the medicine. He says if I keep responding, I will be walking around this room in 2 days and out of this hospital in 2 weeks. He says my lungs are tired but not finished. That's good news. It is. I have been a nurse for a long time and I know when a doctor is being honest with you and when a doctor is using his soft voice. He was being honest with me. Good. She looked at Avery for a long moment. Her hand moved on top of the blanket, the way a hand moves when a person is choosing what to say next. Mr. Hartwell. Yes, ma'am. I have thought about what you said last night. About the house. About not coming back to the shelter. I want to say 2 things to you about that. All right. The first thing is that I am going to say yes. I am too old and too tired to refuse a good thing twice in one day on principle. I have spent the night looking at my grandson sleeping in a room with a window, and I have decided that a woman who refuses, on her own pride, to give her grandson a window is a woman I do not want to be. So I am going to say yes to the house. Michael nodded. He did not trust his voice for a second. The second thing is that you are not going to make him your project. You are not going to put him in a tuxedo for a charity gala and stand him next to you and tell people he saved your life. You are not going to put his face in a magazine. You are not going to write a book. You are going to let him grow up. He is going to go to school 3 blocks from that house. He is going to skin his knees. He is going to be late on his homework. He is going to forget you sometimes, because that is what children do, and that is healthy. If you want to be in his life, you will be in his life the way an old friend of the family is in his life. You will come to his birthday. You will not make a speech. I won't make a speech. You will help us pay for college when the time comes, because we will need help, and I am too proud for the wrong things but not for the right ones. You will not buy him a car when he is 16. He can earn the car. He can earn the car. And if, somewhere down the line, a day comes when you and I disagree on what is best for him, I am going to win that disagreement. Not because I am right and you are wrong. Because I am his grandmother and you are not. You will win. She nodded slowly. Then she said, then we have an understanding. We have an understanding. In the recliner, Avery shifted. He did not wake. He pulled the gray cardigan a little tighter around himself in his sleep. Elizabeth watched him. Michael watched her watch him. Mr. Hartwell, she said. Yes, ma'am. He told me once, last winter, about a man with a coat. He told me a white man in a navy coat stopped under the awning by the bakery on Wexler when it was raining and took the coat off his own shoulders and gave it to a woman who was sitting on the bench. He said the woman was me. I did not remember it at the time. I do now. You did not give that coat for a reason. You gave it because it was raining and a woman was on a bench. My grandson remembered your face from that night. He remembered your face well enough to recognize the M on your car. He remembered well enough to come find you yesterday. Michael said nothing. You did not save us, Elizabeth said. Yesterday, my grandson saved you. And the day before yesterday, and last winter, and every day in between, the small things you did not think were important were, in fact, the only things that were important. I want you to carry that with you. I will. Good. She closed her eyes for a second, then opened them. Now go get some breakfast. You look terrible. He stood up. He looked once more at the boy in the recliner. He thought about the courthouse steps and the palms raised and the words Tuesday at 3, and how the whole of his remaining life had passed through the eye of a needle held by a 5-year-old he had never met. He walked out of the room. He closed the door behind him gently. In the hallway, the morning light was coming through the window at the far end, gray turning to gold, the way light does in this city in the spring when a long night finally ends. He stood there for a moment, and then he went to find some breakfast. If this story moved you, please like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it today, and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. Subscribe for more stories about the small acts of attention that change everything, and the unlikely heroes who see what the rest of the world walks past.